Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to another fabulous episode here at USA Global TV and Radio. We're going to be talking about why business recognition is a strategy and not a nice to have or an extra to have. This is actually one of my favorite topics. So for those of you who don't know, I sold reward and recognition programs for over 20 years, and I really firmly believe in it. Yet there are many businesses, when there's a downturn, they think to themselves, well, why don't we just get rid of the recognition program because it's not actually doing anything. There were also companies I would call on who didn't believe in recognition at all. What they would say is, listen, we're paying our people a salary, we're giving them bonuses, they've got benefits. That's all they need. So I'd love to hear, what are your thoughts about recognition as a business strategy? Are you actually implementing it, or have you implemented it at your organization? Are you part of a recognition program? So in this episode, we're going to look at recognition as a deliberate business strategy rather than it feels good, why don't we just do it? And then we can just get rid of it whenever we want. This particular show is designed for entrepreneurs, founders, and business owners who rely on relationships, trust, and long-term engagement. So if that's you, stay tuned. There was an episode of Seinfeld, for those of you who are familiar with it, and we got permission at the company where I work to actually use one of these particular episodes. And we actually had a disc that we would take out on sales calls. And it was Elaine's birthday. So if you remember Seinfeld, Elaine, it was Elaine's birthday. And Kramer gave her a gift. And the gift was this bench. And it was not an elaborate bench. It was just a bench that he put together and he wrapped. And she was so excited because she always wanted this bench. And Jerry gave her a stack of cash. And so when Kramer says to Jerry, what did you give Elaine? He said, I gave her cash. And he said, cash? That's something, I think he said, that's something that an uncle would give. And so the point being that as much as we all say we love cash, right? We want to be compensated for our work. When we think about cash, it's an energy. It comes and it goes. And so we would always use part of our sales presentation that when someone gives you cash, for example, do you actually remember what you used the cash for? And if so, or if not, did it help drive a behavior change? Did it reinforce that this is the behavior that we're looking for, or this is the behavior that's expected? Or we just take the cash and just spend it for gas or for groceries or whatever the case may be. And then it really didn't drive any behavior change. So today I'm going to share with you more examples of my experience in the loyalty, recognition, and event space, and why recognition itself really does drive retention, standards, and continuity, and why many businesses still overlook it and don't think that it's very important. Now, one of the things that might be coming up for you is you think to yourself, oh, is this like a formal recognition program? I remember something about points. Yes, there are definitely programs out there, and I sold these for years, where you can earn points And then those points can be redeemed for fabulous prizes and merchandise, which is a terrific way of rewarding people, getting them to strive for something and earn something along the way. And then they can redeem it for something that they'll look at and they'll be able to say, okay, I remember how I earned that. And for me, for example, I actually was able to earn enough points to get a number of really cool things in my life. And I always looked at them and I remembered my employer who had given me that opportunity. So recognition is not always just about rewards. It's really about value signaling. We are valuing our people. So at the core of any business are our people. It's part of our culture. They're the first line of our organization to our customers, to our clients. So I'm not going to be just giving you random information. I actually do have a number of references that I'm going to be quoting as well. And what I found is that research consistently shows that recognition is not a soft concept. It's actually a measurable business driver. So, what does recognition actually do in a business, and what types of recognition are there? So, there's something that we call soft recognition, which is kind of where you go up to somebody and say, "Hey, Joe, great job you did today. Congratulations." Or, "Hey, everybody, Joe did XYZ. Round of applause. Nice." There's also, "Hey, why don't we go out and celebrate?" Or, "Why don't we have a pizza party?" There's all kinds of ways that we can recognize people. And so some of these come at a minimum cost or really no cost at all. If you think about just on the spot, giving someone recognition, congratulations, thanks for doing such a great job. Or you can give somebody, a preferenced parking spot, for example. There are ways that you can do things that you don't actually have to take money out of your pocket. So consider, are you actually doing any of these things? Now, then there is the hard and fast recognition. What recognition does is it creates visibility and accomplishment, as well as acknowledgement of that accomplishment. It reinforces the standards and the expectations of your organization. And it lets people know who and what is valued. And over time, not only does it build continuity, but it builds trust. It says, I really value you. I really appreciate the contributions and efforts that you are making and have made for our organization. So recognition really tells people where they stand without having to say anything about it. Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. 5 little known secrets for dementia caregivers with Tracy Cram-Perkins.
Hi there, I am Tracy Cram-Perkins, the host of the Dementia Home Care Show here on USA Global TV and Radio. I am also the author of the book of the same name. And you'll see this QR code. This is for an extended version of the same talk. So if you want to see the full hour-long version, feel free to scan the code and go to that website. Stick with me, we'll talk about 5 little known secrets to make it a little easier to do dementia caregiving. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is a healthy aged brain, age 55 and above. The one you're seeing on the right is an Alzheimer's disease brain. It is in moderate disease. It is shrinking. It has holes in it. The memories that were in those holes no longer exist. When you're learning something, let's say in kindergarten, you learn how to tie your shoelace. Well, then by the time you're in 2nd grade, your brain remembers that information from tying the shoelace and applies it so you can learn more quickly how to tie more complex knots. So the brain is hardwired to do this for us. So it helps us learn faster so it doesn't take us long to acquire knowledge. The brain is looking for the information and they pick the closest to wherever that hole is. Let's look at some tips that we can use to help do that.
These are 5 simple tools you can use as a dementia caregiver to help your loved one. The whiteboard is a useful tool in recording the day's activities and the answers to repetitive questions. The calendar clock is a very useful tool to orient your loved one on the day, the date, and the time, and remind them of upcoming appointments. The communication cards are a great tool to bridge the gap when they can no longer tell you what's wrong. And then there's the pill minder for when your loved one is still able to take pills but needs prompting. The final tool I want to share with you is the memory book. It tells your loved one's story. It's a great tool for distraction, redirection, also as a conversation starter, and telling you where they are in their story so you know how to answer their questions.
Music is probably the most powerful tool in your toolbox after laughter. Music is a way to maintain connection. It sticks with your brain longer than any other thing, including reading. When you're having an issue with somebody, you can play their favorite music if you move them to another room, something that makes them happy, or you can start singing songs together from their childhood. These are some of my favorite books for caregivers. My show airs on the third Tuesday of every month, and you can view past episodes on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
This program has been brought to you in part by Tracy Cram Perkins. Connect with her and order her book at tracycramperkins.com. For more information about Alzheimer's disease, support resources, and how you can help, contact the Alzheimer's Association at 1-800-272-3900 or visit their website at www.alz.org. They offer 24/7 helpline support and a wealth of information to assist you and your loved ones. Hello and welcome back to another episode of What You Were Never Taught in School. Today we're talking about recognition as a business strategy, not a nice extra. And if you missed the beginning of the episode, I shared that I have been in the loyalty and recognition business for over 20 years, and I certainly learned quite a bit about recognizing employees and what it's like to be recognized. So why is it that small businesses underestimate recognition? Well, let's face it, as a small business owner, you may be focused on just surviving and just getting your operations in order, trying to figure out a structure. Every day, something comes along that you just are in the weeds. Or maybe you're afraid of showing favoritism or maybe highlighting inconsistencies for people who are not getting recognition. Or maybe you feel, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, that people should already just know that they're appreciated. You know, the fact that you have a job here, you're appreciated. Or maybe it's the fact that you are relying on what I call spot recognition, and you're just picking out people randomly and just saying, hey, thanks for doing a great job. And on the spot recognition is important too. But if that's what you're relying on, you might be missing out on some things. So basically, this core idea is that recognition only succeeds when it's consistent and it's not accidental. So by having a structured loyalty and recognition program in place, that really can drive behavior change. And there's all kinds of statistics that reference this. So one of them is that recognition reduces turnover risk. Gallup reports that longitudinal findings from 2022 to 2024 show employees who are well recognized are 45% less likely to have turned over after 2 years. Again, that's a Gallup report. So let's look at monetary recognition versus non-monetary recognition. So this might be coming up for you as well, which is, you know, we don't really have the budget to be doing some type of loyalty program or recognition program. So let's look at what are the pros and cons of having a recognition program in place when it's monetary versus not monetary. So what is it that money does really well in terms of driving behavior change? Where does it kind of fall off short? Like I just referenced that Seinfeld episode about Elaine's birthday. And why monetary rewards can kind of distort motivation when we're in a relationship-based business. How public and consistent recognition recognition, often outlasts a one-time compensation. So we've heard of these one-time a year bonus or benefit or some kind of thing at the end of the year, we're going to give it to our employees. And so how does that compare when it's a consistent opportunity to be recognized? And then finally, why is it that visibility and acknowledgement can create status and belonging? So if you're familiar with the expression that 80% of our business comes from 20% of our clients, or 80% of our employees are responsible, 20% of our employees are responsible for doing 80% of the work, or the opposite around. We've got A players, B players, and C players. And so this is even on a grid, you can look at consistently the top performers are usually your top 20%. So if you have a bell-shaped curve, you're going to see at the top, it's the same people who are doing the same thing over and over again to bring in the numbers, to bring in the business, to bring in the clients, whereas the rest of the community is really not getting recognized. So I know when I was selling reward and recognition programs, we had a number of programs that were events for the top sales performers. So you have the same people year after year who are going on the trip, who are getting the award, who are going on the stage, but yet the rest of the organization, what was determined to be the B and C players, because they weren't hitting the numbers of the A players, they're actually not being recognized. Now, a thought process about this is the people, if you think of the bell-shaped curve, the people who are at either end, sometimes people would say, well, you know what, they're just getting by. They're just coming in to pick up a paycheck. And that can be the case, right? There might be times in any of our lives when we just needed a job. And so we would just show up and do the bare minimum. So you have to think to yourself, do you want to have a reward and recognition program that includes those people? Or do you want people who are really committed to the organization? And maybe they're not the top 10 or top 20%. But if they were able to be motivated, to be recognized, maybe their performance level could move up. And typically, that's what we found, that by putting a structured reward and recognition program in place, you could drive behavior change with that middle group of people who were not the A players, but they also were not the C players. And that's where the bulk of your organization typically is. So the Harvard Business Review summarizes research indicating that when managers are good at recognizing employees, those employees are more than 40% more engaged than those managers who are not. 40%. Now, I'll share something with you about me personally. I've always been someone who likes rewards and recognition. And not that I need it, I'm not motivated by external validation, but I like the gold stars. I like to be able to hit goals for myself. And many people would say, well, why do you have to have a recognition program? Why can't you have your own individual recognition program? Well, I think as people who are producing and giving back, sure, we can have our own system of recognition, but isn't it nice to also be recognized by the organization where you work? Or maybe it's even something like where you work out and they have a recognition program for hitting so many classes. Think about this. Would that encourage you to take more classes? So for me, I have been a member of Solid Core, not a paid spokesperson, but I joined there in 2018. And if you're outside of the United States, you probably haven't heard of them. They haven't expanded yet, but I know they're going to. And they would recognize you for your first 25 classes, your first 50 classes, your first 100, and then 250 and 500, 1,000, et cetera. So when I hit 1,000 classes, the next mile marker is 2,000. And so I thought to myself, that's a long way between 1,000 and 2,000. So I completed 1,100 classes and there was no formal recognition, but the coaches at the studio actually did a great job in recognizing me. But there's no more recognition after that. So do I have to have the external recognition? No, but I like it. It doesn't cost them any money. So if you think to yourself as a business owner, What is preventing you from recognizing people? If you put a recognition program in place and there's nothing monetarily assigned to it or aligned with it, why aren't you recognizing people? Why aren't you recognizing your clients? And if you're even in a social media world, why aren't you recognizing the people who are the ones who are there and they continuously are supporting you? So Deloitte cites its research that high recognition companies have 31% lower voluntary turnover than companies with poor recognition cultures. That's Deloitte. So high recognition cultures have materially lower voluntary turnover. Okay. So as we continue on with our discussion today, how recognition builds loyalty. People will stay somewhere typically when they feel seen. What are some of the biggest reasons why people leave their job or leave anything really? They don't feel acknowledged. They have some kind of issue with their manager. It's typically never about the money. So in the example I just gave about SolidCore, for example, it's not about the money. It's not about me paying to be a member because I've been paying them since 2018. It's about them changing the recognition program to acknowledge people in between 1,000 and 2,000 classes. So that's just how I feel about it. Think about where you are, what it is you contribute to. Are you being recognized? So here at USA Global TV and Radio, we have weekly recognition for the top most viewed episodes on both of our YouTube channels, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck and USA Global TV and Radio. And then we have a formal recognition program, which is quarterly, and then at the half-year mark, and then third quarter, and then for the year. So we provide certificates, and we also have announcements on social media, and we also put it on our website. So that's very time consuming, but I feel that it's really valuable. It's really valuable because I want people to know that we care and we recognize them. And it's for our team members. It's also for our loyal fans. It's for our sponsors. And so that doesn't cost a whole lot of money, but it costs time, which is also money. But in my mind, it really demonstrates the difference between having a relationship that's transactional and a relationship that's based on loyalty. So I want to recognize people for that loyalty. So if you think about your own organization, loyalty grows when people know that their contributions matter. So are you recognizing people? Are you letting people know that they matter? Maybe it's even your suppliers. It's people who help you keep your business running. So, what is it that we were never taught in school? The first thing is that a recognition program is a system. It's not a personality trait. It's not like, oh, I really like you today and I don't like you tomorrow. No, it's something that's established, it's organized, it's structured. It's intentional, it's visible, and it's repeatable. So you put the program in place, you let people know this is the program, this is how you can get engaged with it. So for USA Global TV and Radio, I personally sent out an email last year to let people know what the recognition program was and that who qualifies and what you have to do to qualify and what the program consists of. So you have to let the people know. Recognition is part of a culture. It sets the stage for culture, for family, for community, even when you have a small team. It lets people know that they are appreciated, that they belong. Silence is also a message. So if you choose not to recognize people, you're sending a message. You're sending a message, which is basically, did you see the front door when you came in? Well, it just could easily be closed the next time you try to come through it. So if we don't design a recognition program, something else comes into place. And in my experience, it's an assumption that I don't matter. So I just mentioned to you about SolidCore. And again, I love SolidCore. The fact that there's no recognition program between 100 and 1,000 and 2,000 classes says to me there's an area of opportunity. There's an area to say, you know what, you do matter, because I don't know how many people make it over 1,100 classes. I'm sure that the studios that started like in Washington or Philadelphia, I'm sure they definitely have people over that. But it's nice to know at the corporate level that you actually care about the people that are paying you month after month. And it's the same thing when you're an employee. You want to know that the work that you're doing, not only because you get a paycheck and you have benefits, that you matter as a human being. And so sometimes it can look like this. You can look at a person's situation. Maybe they have some things going on at home. So you give them additional days off, or you offer the opportunity for them to speak with a counselor. But it's a structured thing. It's not just, oh, Bill can do this and we'll have Susie do that. No, you have to have something formal in place that lets people know, okay, maybe we're not doing a traditional recognition program, but here are the opportunities for you based on what you might encounter during your work life here. When I started in the corporate world, which was a long time ago, I thought I'd always work for the same company. So I started out working in my father and my uncle's car business. And then I wanted to go out on my own, and I went to AT&T. I think it was December of 1987. And I really thought I would be with AT&T for my entire career. I really did. It was the mindset was cradle to grave. And things changed. But now they've changed in a completely different way. Now my understanding is, over the last number of years, that people are staying in jobs for 2 years, for 1 year. And so that makes it tough for the employer. And so would a recognition program make any difference? Yes. I mean, I've got more references, which I'll go into. But letting someone know that you care about them, regardless of their tenure, they're going to take that information and share it with other people. And they're going to say, you know what? I left XYZ company because whatever the reason is, but they really treated me well. They know how to treat their people. And so now you're building a culture of integrity and a place people want to come. People as clients, they want to come to an organization where they know that people are taken care of. Let's talk about a call center, for example. What comes to mind is cable. Okay, cable television, which I don't have cable anymore. But whenever I would call a certain cable company, you get the first line of people. It's very different now with AI, and you've got to go through all these steps, and they have to text you and all these other things. But it used to be you would get directed to the call center, and the call center agents are handling people all day long who typically are complaining, because you had the option of pressing 1 for sales, 2 for service. So if you're going to service, you're going to deal with people who all day long are listening to people complain. And so what the company realized was that even though they gave training on how to deal with irate customers, they actually were not recognizing and rewarding these people for turning people from angry clients to happy clients. Now, you may say to yourself, well, there's also a problem at the company level because there were service issues. Absolutely. But to be able to take an irate customer and let them know how much you care and turn them into a customer who's going to continue to stay, that, in my opinion, deserves recognition. And not only that, you take that process and you clone it and you share it with the other call center reps. One thing that I think is missing today, just talking about the cable industry, is part of the reason why I stopped having cable, I just discontinued it, was you can never speak to a person. It was always going through these circles of you get a bot here and a bot there, and then they'll text you information, then you click on a link and then you get another bot. And so I think that in that way, taking humans away from the first line of dealing with clients, I think is a mistake. And rewarding and recognizing people obviously is much more profound than having robots, because a person has the ability, while they might lose control of their emotions, they actually can use their choice of being logical and saying, well, if I was in your situation, how would I feel? So thinking again about reward and recognition programs as something that are locked in place. It's a system. It's not a nice to have. It's something that's intentional. It's done with meaning, and it's very visible to the people who have an opportunity to participate. So as we look ahead, what I'd like you to think about is how, as a business owner, you can look at your own recognition program or lack thereof and say to yourself, what's working and what's not working? So can you run a focus group? Absolutely. Can you survey your employees? Surveying is important, but it's about how the questions are worded. Surveying in and of itself is actually a science. So I don't know that you're actually going to get the answers that you want when it comes from a survey, because many times people are afraid to share what they're really feeling. You can look at the research that's been done over years that definitely demonstrates the fact that reward and recognition programs are here to stay. They really make a difference. So I already mentioned Gallup, I mentioned Harvard Business Review, and I mentioned Deloitte. So now I'm going to mention another Gallup report that employees receiving feedback and recognition from their manager at least weekly are 61% more engaged, 61 versus 38% when the feedback is weekly, but recognition is less frequent. People like to be recognized. We want to feel good. We want to know that what we're doing is making a difference. Now, you don't have money for a recognition program, which we talked about earlier in the program. You don't have to have money. As I mentioned to you, you can have certain milestones where people can earn something. And maybe it's a one-on-one with one of the C-level executives, or maybe it's a day off. Maybe it's a parking space that they get that's close to the building. Maybe they get to eat in the cafeteria for a week. Think of things that you can do creatively to thank people. And if you don't have that kind of opportunity either, you can use certificates. You can use social media. You can help support somebody and whatever it is that's going on with them personally. Maybe you make a donation to their charity, but it's in a structured way. So when you think about consistency, that's what really matters more than the scale of it, more than how much money you're putting towards it. And loyalty is built through this visibility, the repetitiveness, and the structure. So what I'd like you to take away from today's episode is that it is definitely possible. It is definitely recommended that you look at putting a loyalty program, a recognition program in place in your organization. If you need help doing so, there are many people out there who can help you with that. I can even refer you to my former employer, ITA Group, out of Des Moines, Iowa. They do an outstanding job of reward and recognition programs. And if you have a program in place and you don't realize or feel that it's driving behavior change, you can also reach out to someone like ITA Group to help restructure your program. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please do. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channels, which are USA Global TV and Radio, and also Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. There you can be reminded of all of the content that we have. It's not just me. We've got over 60 different shows. And if something resonates for you and you'd like to be a guest, you can go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com/book your session. That's all for now. We'll be back with our next show at the top of the hour. Thank you very much. Until then, just think about the importance and what it feels like to be recognized and rewarded. Loyalty. That's where it's at. Bye for now.
In a noisy world, true connection begins with listening. Elevated listening transforms every conversation in just 5 simple steps. Pause and breathe. Set your intention. Listen with curiosity. Reflect back. Agree on one next step. Join the Listening Mentor on Let's Finally Talk with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, the Listening Mentor, where we help you find inner peace, one conversation at a time. Streaming every day. Let's Finally Talk TV show with Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, only here on USA Global TV and Radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channels to watch and engage with all our content.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.